All right, well, good morning, everybody. Happy belated 4th of July. We're here today to celebrate some good news that is a long time in coming and something that is really going to be a big part of this airport for the foreseeable future. So over the last several months, the airport, actually really over the last year, the airport has been working assiduously on securing what's called FAA Rule 139 certification. So what that means is, so the FAA has a set of regulations governing both smaller airports and larger airports. Larger airports being airports that, just very loosely speaking again, that can accommodate larger aircraft. We in New Bedford have aspired for some time to become an airport that can accommodate larger aircraft that can fly to larger airports. We have historically been, certainly over the last 20 years, an airport that has accommodated service, supported service between here and the Cape and the Islands of aircraft of 9 passengers or less, like the one you just saw take off. But in order for this airport to really realize its full potential, for it to be a much more important economic asset for Greater New Bedford, we've got to do more, and that's where 139 certification comes in. You'll hear some more details about what that entails in a moment, but the FAA has a whole host of requirements in order for an airport to get 139 certification and to support the landing of and taking off of larger aircraft that can go into America's air traffic system. So over many months, headed up by the Airport Commission Chair, Paul Barton, and our Executive Director, Scott Service. We put together a plan with other city agencies, the Fire Department, DPI, DFFM, and others, to meet all of the FAA's requirements. And I'm here today to announce that upon inspection by the Federal Aviation Administration last week, at the end of last week, the FAA granted the New Bedford Regional Airport 139 certification. This is really a tribute to the hard work of the two men who are standing beside me, Airport Commission Chair Paul Barton and Executive Director Scott Service, whom I'll invite up to the podium in a second. But this is really a big triumph for the city and for the region. To my mind, what this means is that we can now recruit carriers that can use this airport to take people straight from New Bedford to places like New York and beyond, so that people can understand. People can't go from here and be really anywhere in the world, for that matter, just as you can in any other major metropolitan airport. It's a big step up. It's a real big step up. And this is something we've been looking at for a number of years. There is a market here that will support commercial air service to a number of places around the country. And the idea is this: New Bedford is situated very advantageously geographically. So in order for someone from New Bedford to take a flight anywhere, you've got to say Green Airport, you've got to drive through Providence first, right? And that's no mean feat. Never mind Logan Airport, which is on the other side of Boston, some 65 miles away. We have a market here that can draw from the wider region, that can support air service to a number of places around the country and continue to put New Bedford on the map. There's a bigger strategic goal that is being accomplished here in our pursuit of becoming a full-service commercial airport, and that's this. As I have said from the day that I set foot in office, New Bedford needs to be seen by its residents and by the rest of the world as a real city. New Bedford is not just another community along the southern coast of Massachusetts. It is a real city with a real metropolitan area, with real suburbs and real economic assets, and it's those assets that we've been driving. New Bedford has a major port. New Bedford has a major performing arts center. New Bedford has an airport now, and many other things that that distinguish it from other places, and will allow it to compete for across a number of industries in a global economy, and also continue to draw people into the city to live, to play, and invest, and raise a family. So this is all of a piece. This is all part of our larger strategy for New Bedford to really solidify itself as the economic hub of this entire region, and we see a lot of running room, as they say, in the aviation industry from here on out. So it's a great day, and I really want to thank Paul and Scott for their great work. I want to invite up to the podium now Paul Barton to say a few words. Paul has been working straight out. In fact, there was a period between executive directors where Paul, as the chair on his own, stood in as executive director to keep this process going and to move it along. And it's an exciting time, I know, for him, because it's a major accomplishment. And I really want to thank you, Paul, for going far above and beyond in this effort. So I'd like for you to come on up and say a few words.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. I just want to thank the members of the Airport Commission. I want to thank the mayor and his administration. And I want to thank the members of the City Council who together helped make this project become a reality. We have a lot to offer here in New Bedford. I think a lot of airlines are going to take notice. Like the landing fees are less here than it would be in Providence or Logan Airport. Fuel is less here than the other places. So we have a lot to offer, and I really, in my heart, think that in the past, this was an economic engine that was underdeveloped, and now we have the opportunity to do so. So on behalf of the Commission, I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here, and thank you for everyone who made this possible. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, a couple of things I do want to emphasize, and that is the role of the Commission, the Airport Commission, which is made up of business people and airline pilots and many other community members, really stuck with us all along the way, and they deserve tremendous credit for making that happen, all of them. And Paul is right. This is an underutilized economic asset. I've always felt that way, that this is an airport that could be doing so much more. And there has been, in the last few years, been some significant investment. That runway behind us, the primary runway, was rebuilt entirely just a few years ago, just 2 years ago. The secondary runway is about to be rebuilt. There's been a lot of work here in terms of attracting a rental car company. The restaurant is doing well. There will be repairs to this building, and we look in the years ahead to build an entirely new terminal here. This is going to be a real airport, and the economic advantages are very real. The competitive advantages of this airport can't be understated, and Paul touched upon them. Fuel is cheaper. Landing fees are cheaper. It is a manageable place. You can get in and out of here very quickly. We have a highway right there. We have a highway right there, and rail access not too far away. There's a great deal of connected infrastructure here that makes this place great for both corporate travel as well as recreational travel. So we're really, really excited about it. And I want to ask Scott Service to come on up and say a few words about how we're going to compete, as well as the work that was done to this point to get us here. Scott's expertise was instrumental, and his hard work was instrumental in getting us to this point. So I just want to thank Scott for making it happen, and for the work ahead in advance. Scott.
My pleasure. Hi, my name is Scott Service, Director of Aviation. It's been a lot of work getting it done. We've got a great maintenance staff and front office staff that help work through all the issues. There's a lot of manuals, a lot of documentation with the FAA, wildlife, all kinds of different things that had to come together to make it happen. Took a lot of work, a lot of cleaning things up, getting things straight. The regulation on a general aviation airport is a lot laxed compared to what it will be for an airport with air carrier service. We've got a few airlines that have got some interest, so we'll have to see how that progresses, but we're hoping in the not too distant future to get some flights to JFK, Newark, possibly Florida. We'll just have to see how it goes, but took a lot of effort to get here, and they've done a nice job.
All right, thanks, Scott.
My pleasure.
All right, so we'll do, this is the certificate, so maybe we'll take a quick photo of the certificate and we can take some questions. Want to stand out here, Paul? So I know you must have some questions, so go right ahead.
Thanks. In the near future, is that near future year, 6 months? How long until maybe some commercial?
For commercial service, truly it depends on how often or how soon we get a letter of intent. Oh, sorry. It would depend on how soon we get a letter of intent. Then there's a certain amount of period that they need, usually about 60 days, so that they can sell tickets, do advertising, try to get things ramped up. If they just fly in tomorrow, nobody will be here to meet them. So there's a certain amount of infrastructure they need to set up, ground handling and contracts, but about 60 days.
It's fair to say that carriers are being actively recruited now.
Is there a number you envision in terms of flights per day, commercial wise, or?
Wow, as many as we can get, right?
Yeah.
As many as we could get would be the easy answer. We're looking at different airlines. Some have expressed interest. One flight a week, 2 flights a week, depending on which carrier it is. So we'll have to see how that develops.
How about charter airlines?
Charter airlines, that opens up. Yes, we can handle sports charters. Only limit would be on the size of aircraft at that point. We'd be able to handle them, but it depends on their size aircraft versus our size runway. Not going to get any 747s or 310s. 310's about the size of a 7.6, so it's still pretty big. I mean, you can 737s, A320s, E170s. Yes. Yep. Way back when.
Is there any physical addition coming to the airport of structures at all, like a new hangar deck, a new building, a new lobby at all?
Well, as I said, so we have been talking to the state for a while now about replacing this old terminal with a new one. This terminal goes back to what, the 50s?
1943.
Yeah, built during the Second World War. Yeah.
And when that's done, it would be good to go here or somewhere else. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
How much of an increase in air traffic and noise is expected for the people that live in this area?
Not much.
We're not expected to be a Logan Airport with 500 flights a day of jet aircraft, or even to Providence, because our catchment area isn't quite as large. But even if we had a flight a day, it would be one a day.
I mean, the last time that, so this airport was once 139 certified and lost its certification in the 90s, right? I believe.
Yep.
And there had been discussions back in the late 90s and early 2000s about expanding the runway and doing other stuff. I mean, that's something changed in between, and that was 9/11. The regional air service now, in the wake of 9/11, as we all know, has gone towards smaller aircraft that require less runway. So our primary runway is roughly 5,400 feet long, right? 54.
Correct.
Yeah. So that is plenty long enough to accommodate the kinds of carriers that we'll be approaching. We talk about cargo. We probably need some. Go ahead.
Haven't had anyone express any interest in cargo. Cargo is one market that's actually been shrinking a little bit. It's a lot cheaper lately to move things around by truck than it is to fly it. Amazon opening that big development, to get their things closer. That's not to say there aren't other markets for cargo that we'll be looking at, but nothing as of right now.
There's real 139 certification include TSA or just when they get to the airport as well?
It doesn't include TSA, but it brings with it the TSA. We built a checkpoint area downstairs. We'll be working with them now that the 139 is done for them to come do their inspection, and then we'll be federalized and we'll have a TSA checkpoint.
Yeah, and I'm glad you raised that, because if you go down there, you'll see the TSA checkpoint built out, more or less, structurally built out. And that was something that DFFM did over many months, somewhat quietly, but it's there now. And so we're ready. That is less of a, the TSA certification is less of a hurdle than the 139 certification. What we're announcing today is the big, the clearing of the big hurdle.
Can I make a statement? And one thing I think that everybody overlooks, or has been overlooking, is the 139 certification. Everybody thinks that means we're going to have big commercial aircraft coming in here, which hopefully we will. But at the same token, there's a lot of private companies, private jets, you know, that are flying Jetstreams and Falcons, that their insurance carriers only let them land on a 139 certified airport. So what does this mean? That means that instead of having to go to Providence or Logan, we're going to clear up some of that airspace for them so they can come land here, and it's going to be obviously more convenient for them and less expensive for them. So that's going to help the city, because when we sell fuel, we make money. Landing fees, the city's going to make money. And this is a very important part of 139. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What's the economic impact in terms of more flights, more gas? Are there jobs attached to the 139 certification? Is there anything like that? How does that play into 139?
Well, in terms of direct employment at the airport, no.
Okay.
But in terms of the indirect economic impact, we hope will be significant. And that's every functioning city in America has an airport, and we include ourselves in that group. So that's why we've pursued this, primarily because we think that businesses can gain an advantage. Businesses here can gain an advantage, and we can attract other businesses by having an airport that allows for convenient travel from New Bedford to New York in particular, but beyond, to connecting up to everywhere else in the country. All right, guys, thank you very much. Glad we get out here on a nice day today.
So I'm going to summarize basically what I said before, but so explain the 139 for us.
Sure. 139 is transitioning from a general aviation airport over to an air carrier airport, which means that currently we have Cape Air with 9 passenger aircraft. They fall under the exception. Air carrier picks up at 10 passengers or more. So it allows us to go after airlines with larger aircraft. We're expecting 50, 70 passenger airplanes, nothing enormous. They're about the same size as the Gulfstreams and the Challengers that are flying in and out of here today, which is why we don't anticipate a lot more noise from them.
So have you had any offerings from any like overseas airlines, like I say from Portugal and the Azores, anything like that? Because
there's been discussions.
Like a charter airline, something like that.
Once
a month, once every 2 weeks. Anything?
The airline showing current interest, it's twice a week. They're not prepared to release it. They wanted to do their own media, so I'll let them make their announcement when the time comes. Don't want to get too far in the weeds with you, but there are down in Brazil, Embraer is making a new aircraft that has long range, small airplane designed around 5,000-foot runways. So strategically, it could fly from New Bedford to the Azores.
Oh man, that's awesome! I think
so
a lot of people will be pretty excited about that.
And there's a lot of smaller airlines that operate and that don't want to fight their way in and out of JFK, Newark, and Logan. Are looking at that aircraft going, this opens up new markets, new places to go where it's easier, and and we can make money on the routes.
I'm extremely excited about this. So what's your hopes and future expectations for the airport? What do you think that can come out of this?
I hope we will be getting some airline service. I don't want to say hope it anymore. I want to say we will be getting airline service. I also think that it'll increase our corporate traffic, because corporate traffic, they're flying $20-30 million airplanes. They know we have to live to a certain standard, so they don't have to ask what the surface looks like, they already know that if the FAA is inspected once a year, it's a good place to go. I'm not going to scratch up my airplane coming in. So it'll increase, which will then increase the revenue for the FBOs. The FBOs increase, they'll hire more people to handle more aircraft. It brings more jobs, more people, more money to New Bedford.
So I think this is exciting. It's one of the best things that's happened to New Bedford lately, and I'm excited.